Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I want to present you an opening trap that you really have to know by heart if you're a first d4 player. The opening trap is known as the Englund Trap and it appears in the Englund Gambit after the moves d4, e5. The opening doesn't have the best reputation, but it's still quite popular on amateur level, especially in online blitz games. Since I switched from first e4 to first d4 2 years ago, I had at least 100 Lichess online games where my opponent tried to snare me in the Englund Trap. And yeah, I have to admit that especially the first games were pretty tough for me. Because think about it. When you're starting playing d4, what will you look up first? Of course, I looked up first d5. I looked up all the Indian games. Then I started looking up the Dutch, but who on earth would look up first d5, This is probably the last opening that you will look up if you're a first d4 player. And yeah, this is probably why it's so common and so famous on amateur level, because nobody is pretty well prepared against it. And I think that it's quite important to be prepared, especially if you want to play online blitz games. So yeah, you can see the critical position already on the board. It's black to move and win white at the spot, but take your time. Before we just jump right into the tactic, I of course want to show you how to reach the position and more importantly what white should have done to avoid to get trapped. So without further ado, it's time to checkmate. So the game that we are following is a game between Nagy and Zoltan Hetesi and took place in 2010. I picked this game because of the huge difference in rating points. I just wanted to show you that even if you're the underdog, you still can win against higher rated opponents if you're well prepared. So keep on studying my opening traps, right? The game started with the move d4, and here black played a rare move. He played a move e5. This is known as the Englund Gambit. And as I already told you in the introduction, it doesn't have the best reputation. So if you're in an important game, I really wouldn't advise you to play this variation. But let's say you're playing some offhand games or you're playing online chess games, well, why not trying it out? It's a fun line. It's said that the best way to refute the gambit is to accept it. And yeah, so white took the pawn. Black decided to play knight to c6, attacking the pawn on e5, and if white doesn't want to give back the materials so easily, he has to defend the pawn, and the most logical move is knight to f3. So black plays queen to e7, attacking the e5 pawn a second time, and here the most common move is bishop to f4. We will come back to this move soon enough, but before I just want to show you another variation, and this is the move queen to d5, because with this move white can protect the e5 pawn as well. And if you think about it, then black's already a little bit cramped, because how can he get out his pieces, It's not so easy, and if he wants to develop his pieces, he once and for all have to give up the e5 pawn, and this is by playing the move f6. And after the exchange and the retreat of the queen, he can grab the center with d5, but after bishop f4, bishop d7 and e3, I simply just think that white is better. I mean, white is up a pawn, and I don't think that black got enough compensation for the pawn. Of course, you could argue that black got a semi-open f-file and a semi-open e-file, but yeah, I just think that white doesn't have any weaknesses and can easily defend against black's attack. I just want to mention that in this position, knight to c3 wouldn't be that good for white, because then black can play bishop to d7 with the idea of knight to a5. So let's say white plays a move bishop to g5, and here after knight a5 it's suddenly black who got all the fun in the game. So let's go back to the game. In the game, white decided to play the move bishop to f4, and as I already told you, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the move. It's by far the most common move, and yeah, it's no mistake. So in this position, black got a nice move, and this is queen to b4 check. attacking the king and the bishop at the same time. So white has to do something about it, and the most common move is bishop to d2. I just want to mention that the computer thinks that knight to c3 is okay as well, but if I would be white, I would definitely prepare the move bishop to d2, because after queen takes f4, knight to e5, attacking the queen and the c7 square at the same time, so the queen has to move because otherwise she's lost, right? So queen e4 and knight takes c7 check, winning a rook, king d8, knight takes e8, and knight takes e5. Well, we reach a position where white at the moment, white got a rook and a pawn against a bishop. But of course, the knight on a8 is lost, and so at a certain point it will be a position where white gets a rook and a pawn against two pieces. And yeah, I think, well, it's probably better for white, but I think that the bishop d2 line is just much more precise, and so let's go and look how the bishop d2 line works out. After bishop d2, attacking the queen, black has to take the pawn on b2. And now think about the position. Black's attacking a rook on a1. What would be the move that you would play as white? Well, funny enough, over 13,000 players on Lichess play the move bishop to c3, but this is already clearly losing. I will show you what will happen in this position soon enough, but before I want to show a better move for white. A better move for white is knight to c3. And here, black's main move would be bishop to b4, again attacking knight. So white will play rook to b1, and after queen a3, knight d5, attacking the c7 square, bishop a5, rook b5, bishop takes d2, queen takes d2, king d8 to protect the c7 square, knight to g5, attacking the f7 square, knight h6, and f4. I think it's pretty clear that only white can be better. I mean, right now the material is equal, and black probably will even get a pawn, but look at black's pieces. This knight doesn't do anything. This bishop, well, how can you get it into the game? The rooks are still in the corner. The king can no longer castle and stuck in the center. And look at this white knights. Good outposts, you know. He will follow up the game with e5, e4, bringing out the bishop and castling. You know, I think white must be simply just better. The computer gives it already as +2 for white, and I really have to agree that this is a great position for white. But I just want to show you one little tricky line that you could try as black if you really want to go for the Englund Gambit and reach this position. There's a grandmaster named Eamon Hamilton who played in an over-the-board game the move queen takes c3. And if you're not knowing him, he also got a YouTube channel. The name is Chessbra, and he's quite famous for this opening because he played it several times in online blitz games. He called it the Englund Gambit, so you really could check out it, because after bishop takes c3, bishop takes c3, knight e2, and bishop takes e5, of course, black's down a queen, but as a compensation he got two pieces and a pawn. Truth must be told, this shouldn't be enough to win for black, but if white isn't precise and white can start up pushing the pawns up the board and getting good squares for the pieces, well, things can happen. And if you would check out his YouTube channel, you will find out that he won many games in this variation. So it's probably a fun line to try in games that aren't important. I really wouldn't advise you to play an opening like this in a, let's say, in a team game, you know. Your camels will probably kill you for trying out this variation. But anyway, yeah, if you're going for the Englund Gambit, keep this little variation in mind, because you may get some chances to still win the game at that. So let's go back to the game. As I already told you, 13,000 players on Lichess played the mistake bishop to c3, and I would advise you to pause the video and try to figure out why this move is a big blunder. I mean, at the first glance it looks logical. It takes the queen and it protects the rook on a1, so what could be wrong with it, right? I give you 3 seconds to pause the video and to find out. 1, 2, 3. Well, I hope you all found the solution. If not, I'll give you a little hint. You're not forced to move your queen away. You could just simply play another move to protect it. With this hint in mind, I'll give you another 3 seconds to pause the video. 1, 2, 3. Well, I hope you all found the solution. The right move is bishop to b4. Pinning the bishop so he cannot take the queen. And here the best move for white is probably queen to d2. At least it's the most common move. And in this position you just simply can grab the bishop. And now white's best response would be to grab the bishop with the knight. But after queen takes a1, knight to d1, and queen takes a2, well, what should I say about the position? You're just simply up a rook and a pawn, and yeah, I mean, white can easily surrender. There's no way white can win this game anymore. Funny enough, in this position, a lot of players play the move queen takes c3, but now it's just simply mate. Queen c1, checkmate, game over. So yeah, I hope you liked today's video. I hope you learned something. If you did, please let me know in the comments, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. So see you next time, and it's again time to checkmate.